Hey everybody, welcome to Drama Recaps channel. Today, I will show you a recap of a 2018 American biographical crime movie titled Black Klansman. As always, spoiler alert, watch out, and take care. The film is set in 1979 Colorado Springs, where racial tensions are still high following the end of desegregation laws. There, an African-American man named Ron Stallworth enters the local police station to do an interview. His interviewers are the station's chief named Bridges and another man named Turrentine. They question him about his moral standings before Turrentine outright asks Ron what he would do if a white cop uses a racial slur against him. Despite the rising black movement and tension between the races, Ron says that he will turn the other cheek if needed. The two men seem satisfied with Ron's answers and decide to hire him as the department's first ever black police officer. Ron's first post is to manage the document storage in the filing department, keeping and fetching records for other officers. Ron isn't satisfied with his task, so he asks Bridges to become an undercover detective instead. Bridges says no, since Ron is a new officer, but then changes his mind as he calls Ron to assign him to an undercover investigation. In the morning, Bridges introduces Ron to the detective he'll be working with, Flip Zimmerman, and Jimmy Creek. They're going to investigate an event in town where a known black right activist named Stokely Carmichael. He was involved with a racial activist group called the Black Panthers, so they want to make sure that he's not trying to indoctrinate the people of Colorado Springs. Ron is going to attend the event undercover and wearing a wire, so the detectives brief him on how to act and what to do in unwanted situations. They head to Colorado College for the event, and Ron joins the crowd while the detectives wait in the car park nearby so they can listen to the wire. Ron gets acquainted with the women who organized the event, Colorado College's Black Student Union President, Patrice Dumas. She tells Ron that Stockley has changed his name to Kwame Ture. During the event, Kwame Ture gives a passionate and empowering speech to his peers about embracing being black, about black power, and how they should stop trying to emulate white people. He says they should unite to fight against the racist and oppressive white police officers who have been abusing and killing innocent black people. The audience, Ron included, seems enchanted by his words, and they end the speech by shouting empowerment slogans. Ron gets to shake Kwame's hand and asks about a war between the black and white races, which Kwame replies is inevitable. After the event, Ron invites Patrice to a club for some drinks, and she agrees to come once she's escorted Kwame back to his hotel. When they meet again at the club, Patrice complains about being pulled over and harassed by white cops when she was escorting Kwame. After talking about the incident, they decide to dance the tension away on the dance floor. The following day, Ron, the detectives, and a sergeant named Trapp report their investigation to Bridges. They all agree that Kwame wasn't trying to radicalize the students and was just promoting black rights activism, despite his comment about racial war towards Ron. Later, Bridge informs Ron that he's been transferred to the intelligence department, so he goes to his new table where he reads a newspaper for any possible intel. He sees an advertisement about joining a famous white supremacist group called the Klux Klan and decides to call the listed number. He talks to the Klan's Colorado chapter leader named Walter Breachway while pretending to be a white man. He cusses about black people and other races to convince Walter that he is in fact a racist Aryan man and manages to arrange a meeting with him. Unfortunately, Ron just realizes that he introduced himself using his real name, a rookie move pointed out by Flip. Ron devises a plan to get a white officer to pretend to be racist, white Ron Stallworth, and meet Walter, which he reports to Bridges for approval. For the investigation, Ron will still be in touch with the Klan members on the telephone, so there will be two people playing the role of white Ron. The officer that chooses to go undercover is Flip, who is then briefed by Ron about their fabricated backstory and how to talk like Ron. One night, Flip goes to the diner's parking lot for his meeting with Walter, but he's met by another Klan member named Felix Kendrickson instead. While they introduce themselves, Ron and Jimmy are listening and taking pictures in a nearby car. Then Felix insists that Flip go somewhere with him using his car, which is followed by Ron and Jimmy so they can continue recording the conversation. The two cars separate after Ron realizes that Felix has spotted him tailing behind, and Flip finds himself being taken to a dive bar that serves as a local Klansman meeting joint. There, Walter has been waiting to meet Flip and introduces him to another Klansman named Ivanhoe. Walter tells Flip that he joined the Klan because he and his wife were once assaulted by a few black men, making Flip act like he has the same racist sentiments for black people. Walter takes Flip to his office and explains what he needs to know about joining the Klan and gives him the documents to apply for membership. However, Felix and Ivanhoe start to question whether or not Flip is a Jew. Even when Flip lies about being a pure Aryan man, they still don't believe him until Walter stops them and apologizes for their behavior. Back at the station, they report their first undercover session to Trapp, who decides to let them continue their investigation into what the local Klansmen are planning to do. While walking with Ron, Trapp tells about the Klan's current leaders named David Duke, who has been reducing the amount of blatant and public displays of the Klan's racism recently. Trapp says it's because he's trying to run for office and spread hate more systemically, though Ron doesn't think that David will ever be voted into office. In between the investigations, Ron continues to have dates with Patrice. She starts to suspect that he is a police officer from the conversations, but he denies it and says that he works in construction. He then gives Patrice a gift and states that he wants to get closer to her. Sometime later, Ron stakes out alone to watch and record Flip while he has another Klan meeting at Felix's house. There, Felix's wife Connie complains about the Black Student Union and Patrice in particular, suggesting that the Klan should launch an attack towards them. After a brief conversation with all the present Klansmen, Felix invites Flip to his gun collection room and shows off a gun that he named Jew Killer, not so subtly reminding Flip that he still suspects Flip to be a Jew. Despite Walter telling Felix to calm down, Felix then forces Flip to take a lie detector test at gunpoint to prove his race. Ron, who has been hearing everything from the bug, decides to save Flip by throwing a rock at one of the house's windows, promoting Connie to yell at the man to chase him down. Felix tries to shoot Ron, but his gun is taken by Flip and continues to shoot at Ron, though missing on purpose. This seems to earn him enough of the Klansmen's trust for the time. Back at the station, Felix complains to Ron that he wants to quit the investigation because it's not worth the risk. Ron manages to make him reluctantly stay by mentioning that the Klan is just as hostile towards Jews as they are towards black people. Then, Ron returns to his table to call the Klan's national headquarters to inquire about his membership card, but he ends up getting the chance to talk to David Duke instead. Once again, Ron manages to convince David that he is a racist Aryan man, which earns him David's trust, who offers to speed up Ron's membership registration personally. On the other hand, Flip is joining the Klansmen for some outdoor shooting get-togethers. He shoots the target with aiming precision due to his cop training, which makes Felix suspicious because earlier, Flip didn't land a single shot on Ron. This leads to him visiting Ron's actual address, which he found in the phone book, and finding the actual Ron there with Patrice. During the next Klan meeting, Felix confronts Flip about the address, and Flip makes an excuse that he doesn't have his phone number or address listed in the phone book, and that he lives somewhere else. After the meeting, he and Ron start to list all of Colorado's Klan members, including 2 mysterious guys who are supposedly in the army. Ron later gives the information to the FBI, who recognizes the men and commends his team for the investigation. Ron also continues to keep in touch with David, who reveals that he will be coming to Colorado Springs to perform Ron's initiation in person. Meanwhile, Ron gets a call from Walter, who wants to nominate him to become the Colorado Klan member. Ron refuses the offer, saying that he doesn't have the time and he needs to take care of his sick father in El Paso. However, when Flip tries to explain the same thing to the rest of the Klansmen, he slips up and says Dallas instead of El Paso. Though he manages to smooth it out, the suspicion against Flip is stacking up. Even then, Felix still invites Flip to come to a secret meeting without Walter to plan an attack against the Black Student Union during their planned march. Knowing this, Ron comes to the march to warn Patrice about the impending attack, which forces him to reveal that he is actually a cop. This upsets Patrice and makes her ignore his warnings. Thankfully, Felix cancelled the attack last minute for an unknown reason. But then he, Connie, and Ivanhoe meet with another Klan member named Walker, who had stolen some C4 from a nearby fort. They are planning to use it against Patrice and the Black Student Union. Right after the call with Felix, Bridges informs Ron that he will be assigned as David's security detail because the man has received a lot of death threats for coming to Colorado. The team is worried that David will notice Ron's voice from the phone, so Ron has to put a fake voice when he finally meets David in person. David doesn't appreciate the police for sending a black cop to guard him, but there is nothing he can do as they all head to the Klansmen initiation venue. The other Klansmen are also uncomfortable with Ron's presence, especially Felix and Ivanhoe. However, Ron intentionally pokes fun at their blatant racism and takes a picture together with David and Walter. While the Klansmen finally begin their initiation process, in another part of town, the Black Student Union is gathered to hear the story about the systemic oppression towards black people from an old man named Jerome Turner. Jerome and David's speeches contain contrasting messages of justice and hate. After the initiation, the Klansmen gather to eat lunch, which Connie leaves shortly after. Ron suspects her and decides to follow her, while notifying the police of a possible attack near the Black Student Union event venue. Back at the Klansmen's party, Walker tells Felix about Flip's actual identity, because Flip was the one who put him in jail a few years ago. The two poke at Flip to reveal his identity in front of everyone, but then Felix receives a call from Connie, who is panicking because there is a lot of patrolling cops in the area. Felix tells her to calm down and launch Plan B instead, before leaving the party with Ivanhoe and Walker. Seeing this, Flip also decides to leave the party after convincing David that he is still the Ron stalwart that he knew. For Plan B, Connie comes to Patrice's house and fails to put the C4 bomb in her mailbox. When Patrice returns home, Connie runs to hide and decides to plant the bomb under Patrice's car instead. Ron sees her doing this and tries to apprehend her, but 2 cops show up to arrest him since they don't believe that Ron is an undercover cop. Patrice comes out of her home because of the commotion, just as Felix and the others pull up beside Patrice's car. They think that the bomb is in the mailbox, so Felix detonates the bomb only for his car to be blown up by the blast also, killing 3 Klansmen. Connie sees how their plan backfired and can only wail on the ground, while Flip arrives at the scene to rescue Ron and arrest Connie. After a successful day getting rid of Felix and his men, Ron celebrates with Patrice at a police bar as she seems to have warmed up towards the other cops. Despite the team's successful investigation of the Klan, Bridges orders them to stop their operations and get rid of any evidence of it ever happening. He blames budget cuts, but it seems like there is more to it than he wants to admit. The team is upset at the decision, but there's nothing they can do except for one thing. Surrounded by Flip, Jimmy, and Trap, Ron calls David to finally tell Ron Stallworth's real identity. David is the only white supremacist to willingly invite a black man to join the Klan. Then, Patrice breaks up with Ron in his apartment, but a knock on the door promotes them to take out their guns as they witness some Klansmen burning a cross nearby. The movie ends with videos of white supremacist events and rallies in recent years, and Donald Trump being elected as president. This shows that although the Klan doesn't formally exist anymore, its messages and goals still prevail in modern America. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you have a movie you'd like us to recap, let us know in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.